All right. Well, thank you, Catherine, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Women United virtual lunch and learn, our first ever. So we are so excited. And we have a very special guest that I will soon be introducing. Again, my name is Greta Dupuy, and I am the co-chair of Women United. I chair Women United with Stephanie Colon, who is on here. She was on here. She's here somewhere. But Women United, as you may or may not know, is a vibrant, diverse community of women leaders within the United Way of Central Florida Leadership Giving Association to transform our community through volunteerism and philanthropy. Our members are deeply committed to mobilizing the caring power of women as we work to create a legacy of change. So to learn more about Women United, if you don't know about it, and to engage in our work, please visit uwcf.org. We would love to have you join us in many of our activities. I have been part of this amazing group for years, and I'm so proud of the work that has been accomplished, what is to be accomplished, and to call these ladies my friends. We have a strong executive committee, several of whom have joined this morning, including Brittany, wave when I say your name, Stephanie Colon, who's here, but she's not here, Teresa Olinger, who we know is on, but there's Stephanie, Sarah Hallett, there she is, and Christine Elmbach. Hi, Christine. Did I miss anyone? I think I got everyone that's on our committee. And so we are so thankful as well to the amazing staff at the United Way of Central Florida and for Catherine Fitzwater for leading our committee, as well as Christina Kreiser-Jackson, President and CEO of the United Way of Central Florida. But today, I am excited to welcome Lakeland City Commissioner Stephanie Madden. We are going to hear from Stephanie at a time when it can be a challenge to respond respectfully and engage in meaningful dialogue. Our local community must lead the way, that is including us. We hope this talk will inspire you to become a bridge builder for our community. And I know all of you today here are bridge builders already, but we could always use some more inspiration. Stephanie is a small business owner, community volunteer, and Lakeland City Commissioner. She's a mom to 6 kids and 1 daughter-in-law, and has recently added grandmother to her titles. Stephanie is a past president and 24-year member of the Junior League, a graduate of Leadership Lakeland Class 22, and some of her present and past board service includes Lighthouse Ministries, Lakeland High School's PTP, go Dreadnoughts, I think Catherine Fitzwater put that in there, Central Florida's Tourist Development Council, Lakeland Vision, Lakeland's CRA Community Redevelopment Agency, American Public Power Association's Policymaker Council, Lakeland Sitter Cities, SEU's National Leadership Forum O2 Committee, the Mayor's Council for the Arts, the city's Gang Task Force, Broadband Committee Chair, and member of Polk Vision's Smart Communities. She is a daughter of the American Revolution, and she and her family attend Grace City Church. In her spare time, I'm not sure how she has any, she is an oil painter and art enthusiast. So without further ado, I'm going to have Stephanie speak to us. But before she starts, if you have any questions at all throughout today's virtual lunch, please type them in the comment box. We will allow 15 to 20 minutes at the end of today's Zoom conference for questions. So Stephanie, it's all yours. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Greta. So does everyone hear me okay? I'm on my computer audio. Okay, great. Well, if you saw the little post about today's Lunch and Learn, the quote by Thomas Jefferson, I think, was included about the government closest to the people serves the people best. And of course, I love this quote because I hold a government position very close to the people as a Lakeland City Commissioner. I am so close to the people I serve that I get to hear about their potholes while I'm at Publix. And I hear about how much they hate the new Dixieland road diet when I'm at dinner parties, although I'm not really at that many dinner parties right now with COVID. I also hear how much people hate the mask mandate because I've had a first in my career as a city commissioner, which was a group of cars lined up my street and flags and protesters in my yard. So that was a new first to get to hear how people feel. They even rang my doorbell, and although I wasn't able to be hospitable and meet them at the door because I was on a go-to meeting like today with the utility committee. So I texted Chief Garcia and Tony Delgado, our city manager, and said, you know, they seem fine. I've never had this happen before. Just wanted to let you know that I have a big line of protesters, you know, in my yard, and they just rang my doorbell. And so, you know, the chief said, well, they're supposed to stay in the right of way. I'm going to send Officer Rodriguez over to your house so that, you know, they know to make sure they stay in the right of way and don't get too close to your house. So we've certainly had some spicy issues, you know, the past year, and not all issues are so spicy. So recently I heard from a group of guys, you know, they all were over at my house with my husband, and they're like, you know, since COVID, we are all big pickleball fans. Like, we love pickleball, and there's not enough pickleball in Lakeland. And so I really didn't even know for sure what pickleball was. And so they told me that there's courts over there by Wedgwood, and they need to be lighted in the evening so that they can have more of the guys be able to play. So, you know, guess what? I have an email in, and it probably won't be this year. Not a lot of expenditures going on now while we're cutting budget. But in 2021, we will have lighted pickleball. So, you know, sometimes my friends apologize, you know, for bringing city stuff up at birthday parties, or they get embarrassed when their husbands start arguing with me at a community event. But I really don't mind, because it's all part of the job, and that I'm honored to be a Lakeland City Commissioner. It's really why I ran, to be a voice for people that I represent in my sphere of influence. And my sphere is small business owners. My sphere is parents. You know, of all those 6 kids of mine, I'm kind of on Groundhog Day. You know, like, yes, I'm on the soccer field again, you know, 10 years later, because I keep having kids go through our Parks and Rec sports teams and classrooms and schools. So I've met lots and lots of parents and families on the sidelines cheering for our kids, you know, while they play sports, or at their school functions. So I ran, you know, for those families, and I ran for women like you today. You know, Edie Yates was term limited, and there wasn't another female running. And so I thought, well, someone needs to run, maybe it's me. And, you know, I really thought I was joking, and that my husband would say, well, you don't have time for that. But he actually said, I think you should. I think you should try. So here I am, you know, 3 years later, with you, other women, and community volunteers. And, you know, it just really, when I get to participate in something like today, you know, with other people who care about the community and are passionate about it and put their time and service to that, it reminds me, you know, why I serve. And it's really a privilege to be on the City Commission. So I also really, you know, wanted to talk about just conversation and communication, because it's a really important part of my job. So I have to go to the dais, and, you know, there's already a ton of things, you know, on my list. You know, it's ordinances and resolutions that have long been in the works. I mean, the Dixie Lane Road Diet, it's a state road. It's been in the works for 5, 6, 10 years, you know. And it's not that you can't have a change on some of those things, but when you think you've spoken to someone, or you're passionate about something like an innovation district, you have to try to figure out how you're going to get your notes together, come to the dais with those notes as succinctly and powerfully as possible to build some consensus, because I'm only one of 7, and we need a majority vote on anything. And I've got to get city staff convinced that they should work with me on some, you know, harebrained idea that I've come up with. And all of that takes a lot of, to communicate as effectively as possible. Another thing that makes it difficult is, you know, Florida has one of the most stringent transparency laws, which, you know, most of you may know is the Sunshine Law. And that means we're not allowed to speak to people outside of publicly called meetings. And that would apply to any governing board, you know, that you may serve on, you know, that you're not allowed to discuss if you're in the CRA board or the TDC board or the TPO board. You can't, you know, co-conspire off record and, you know, come up with nefarious plans, for your city outside of those meetings. But even if you had wonderful plans, things that you thought would be so beneficial, and you can't get together and dream, and you have to really bring it to that dais for consideration, and then build that collaboration and consensus to move anything forward. So it takes a lot of skill that I'm working on. I want Lakeland, to be the best it can be. I don't want to just sit there and only vote on ordinances, that are long, have long been established. I want us to celebrate diversity. We've had a chance, with this last season, really bringing, Black Lives Matter has really come to the forefront. And so we've had opportunities to have community conversations and discussions that were never on our list. That was never pre-planned. And that's been exciting to be able to think about how we can be more aggressive and more intentional about celebrating diversity in Lakeland. And, certainly we want better paying jobs. We get the information on all these reports and the status of Central Florida, and we see that we fall behind with some of our high skill, high wage jobs. And we want our college kids to stay here to find jobs that match their degrees. And, we love those beautiful lakes that we have and those parks and recreational facilities, but they cost a lot of money. And if we don't have things like the hospital lease or our Lakeland electric dividend because we own our own public power, property taxes doesn't even cover our police, y'all. That's a sobering fact when I found that out. And so when we want beautiful things to happen and wonderful things to happen, we don't have time for vitriol and we don't have time for arguing. We have to make a passion plea with as many facts on our side, with as much supporting evidence and joy and effervescence, to try to create that consensus. So I'm moving down my notes here, excuse me, while I try to do my technology. Yesterday was fun. We got to go to the Lake Craigo grand opening, and I don't know if y'all have been out to Lake Craigo yet, but it's a fantastic facility. It'll have everything from, you'll be able to rent a kayak and go kayaking and on the more casual outdoorsy side, and then also these beautiful rooms, which are all, all the technology you need and all the rentals there in a kitchen, industrial kitchen. And it kind of looks like the Florida Southern buildings on Lake Hollingsworth with those beams, that are at an angle. They have that at the back. The architecture is just beautiful. The rooms are full of windows with a panoramic view of the lake. So I encourage all of you to get out there because it's really incredible. So our city is amazing. Our city staff's amazing. Tony Delgado, our city manager, this is his last week. And, yesterday at our commission meeting, we gave him a honey roast. That's what I call it. I also, have Madden in our office. So we call it a honey roast. We put someone in the middle. And instead of roasting them, which honestly, a lot of this, when I came to the city, they have this VIP luncheon. And, some of the folks who've been there forever in the city, they really roast each other. They kind of bring back old things that they wish they could outlive, but they don't let them live it down. And that's fine, but, I prefer I like sweeter things. Let's all say our very best things about, the person. And we were able to do that with Tony yesterday. And one of the things I said to Tony is, coming on as a new commissioner, thank you. I would meet him in his office and I'm sure he thought, oh God, what does she, want to talk about now? And I said, Tony, cranes have been extinct in Lakeland. Cranes are at least an endangered species. We don't have cranes in Lakeland anymore. And I wasn't talking about the birds. I was talking about, the large machines, that erect tall buildings. And I said, that is something I'd like to see, in our downtown. Well, I'm thankful to say, that I'm one commissioner, and it's not because of me that you see cranes downtown, but, sometimes it's simple prodding and urging, and then if people catch on, you're able to do some things. And we've collaborated with the community by Tony's leadership to have a P3 for a new parking garage, and it's gorgeous. And the city didn't have to pay for it all because we worked alongside businesses who needed parking too. That takes great communication and collaboration. We have the Cranes that erected catapults full of young entrepreneurs for our city. And then now, of course, the Cranes are erecting the Summit facility. And so I know some people don't love, the buildings, tall buildings, and really kind of would like to keep the nostalgia of the small town. But, all the data points to we are one of the fastest growing areas here on the I-4 corridor in the country. And so I think it's kind of crazy to think we would build a wall around our city and stay how we've been, even if we wanted to, but it's how we grow. And do we keep and cultivate a charming downtown and a place where our young people want to stay because of our great community events like our downtown market. So we are busy and there's lots to do in this job. But I would say that when Catherine gave me a couple dates to talk to you, today, I thought, well, I want to give a little update on where we are as a city, but I also want it to kind of be a source of conversation. And so this date obviously falls in Constitution Week. And Constitution Week is the American observance to commemorate the adoption of the United States Constitution. It's every September 17th through 23rd. And, like all of you, I wear lots of hats. Greta mentioned it earlier that I'm a daughter of the American Revolution. And it was really the daughters of the American Revolution who instigated this week. They went and they appealed to Congress and the president and asked for a week to celebrate the Constitution. They have a big hall in DC. It's called Constitution Hall. To be a DAR, you have to, get your lineage back to the Revolutionary times. It's a very patriotic organization, but the Constitution is really important to them. So I get to read a proclamation at my DIR meeting every year. And then this year, yesterday in our meeting, our small society, I see Brittany Sale here, her son Malin is in the little society, but they came up to receive the proclamation for Constitution Week yesterday. So that was great fun to have, the kids there and to teach them a little bit about local government. But it was Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he said, yeah, sure, we can celebrate, Constitution Week. And, we need a time to protect and defend the Constitution and remember that it's the document above all documents. It's the one that we have to make sure all of our laws, go alongside that Constitution. And so even this year, you'd say, well, as a city commissioner, do we think about the Constitution? I actually took a Constitution course online knee deep in the middle of our quarantine, because I was like, wow, a lot of people right now especially think that masks are, against their constitutional right. And, I might not think masks are necessarily, unconstitutional, but, there were some times, that I was like, wow, we're shutting everything down. I remember when COVID was first announced, like back in February or early March. And I thought, well, that's great for China. They can just shut everyone down. We can't shut everyone down. This is America, we won't go for that. And sure enough, we had quarantines and shutdowns. And so, of course, it's an emergency situation. So you do what you have to do for health and safety. But at the same time, as a leader, you should remember, that Constitution should always guide us, that what we give up in times of safety or emergent, for safety or in times of emergency could set a precedent. And so you do want to keep kind of that, soberness, with regard to, that we do live, 200 years strong on the foundation of the Constitution. So, what is this beautiful set of laws that we live by, the highest law in the land? That was made 200 years ago. Like, why do we even care about it? Those men that gathered in Philadelphia are founders like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, the father of the Constitution, and fourth president. When I think about that, it's kind of part of the conversation that we're going to segue into as soon as I, kind of finish up here, is that, it started, I'm sure, with questions and debates and ideas and dialogue and arguing about what would be best, for this new country. And, it all started with 7 articles. They started with 7 articles that they could all agree on and they all could sign up for. But then it's been amended 27 times. To me, I think, there's certainly so much. It's power-packed, the Constitution. But I think the very most powerful words in the document are the first three words, we the people. That is what makes America so special. We are a government for the people, by the people. And, those first, the Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, they are just basic freedoms, are human rights given to us by God, not by government. The freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion, and the right to, worship however we want to worship God. But then, not everyone received all those benefits right away. And so, we needed the 13th Amendment to outlaw slavery, and the 15th Amendment to allow Black men to vote, and then the 19th to finally allow women to vote. Happy 100th anniversary to suffrage, which is so exciting, which happened on August 18th. So it's just been interesting because, I didn't really know what to expect as a city commissioner, and especially, with this year of a global pandemic and all the turmoil that we've experienced, the protests. I've just seen how polarized our public discourse has become. And then add to that, the presidential election, and then RBG's, passing away. I mean, there are things that are very divided and very emotional, and it's not limited, to my little commission chamber. This is, of course, on the news every night, and all of us are aware. But we have so much to be grateful for in America, that we can talk, that we can dialogue, that we can disagree, that we have these three separate and equal branches according to our Constitution, that we don't have a tyrannical dictator, telling us what to do. And as imperfect as it may seem at times, and as frustrated as we all may get when we turn on the news, we have so much to be thankful for, on Constitution Week, with our Constitution and our form of government. And so, my challenge is that, our freedom did not come easy. We had to fight a bloody war, the revolution to get our freedom from Britain and to try this experiment that we call America. And we had to fight a bloody war, to abolish slavery. And we're still fighting, for those natural rights, to make sure that we preserve those rights given by God and granted by our founders. But today I see that it's not so much, the traditional weapons of war, that we are fighting with a war of words. And these words are serious, and they're powerful, and they've caused a great divide. And so this is what's leading to my discussions today. My question to you is the current polarization helping us solve our challenges? And I'm going to say a few things and just kind of get you thinking, and I hope that you'll write down some questions, because it really is, the purpose is for some discussion here, in the last part of the time, is that I think we need, and which Greta said, and I know Catherine has said, that we need bridge builders, and you women are the bridge builders. And I think people are looking for leaders who will stop wielding words that pierce people. Words pierce people like targets. Vitriolic words are the weapons of war. And they're chemical weapons. I mean, when I've been hit with them in my email box, and they are laced with poisonous anger and hate, it puts you in a puddle. I mean, I think I'm strong. I've had 6 kids, build a business from scratch, I don't think of myself as a wimpy person. But wow, when you get hit with some of those words, because of the great anger, even hatred or vitriol behind it, it really can put you under. And then think about, on Facebook, I kind of like to think of it as like the current day tar and feathering. You just put someone out there on Facebook and everyone attacks, and it's like a mob spirit to take somebody out and to ruin their reputation and make them, all kinds of, horrible things. And so I think then what does it do? It causes normal, nice people who believe in civility, to stay silent, say nothing at all, because they don't want to have, that erupt, on their Facebook feed. So I don't think this method of dialogue is yielding the meaningful solutions we desperately need. We have big problems that we are facing. You know, when we turn on the news and all the name calling and the gotcha sound bites, I want to say, you guys, hey, we've got complex challenges that require our best energy. We need ideas and wisdom. We need to find substantive answers. And that necessitates collaboration, just like in my job. I can't make it by myself, but I've got to get people to believe in my idea. I've got to get staff to help me. I need experts. It takes a lot of collaboration of bringing people together, but who will be the bridge? Who will be the leaders who bring us together so we can take strategic steps forward? So I think it starts with us today. It starts with this lunch, and we might be few, but we could be mighty if we believed it. If we believe in those first 3 words on the Constitution, we the people, and we think that it takes all of us, and how can we, instead of driving people away, you know, get everybody's idea at the table? So I kind of use this example of personalities. You know, a lot of us, you know, have done the DISC profile. I think they do it at United Way. You know, Steve used to work at the United Way. It was his first job out of college. And we use it for all of our employees. And, you know, so we kind of be like, oh, we need a C. Where is the C? That wonderful C that organizes everything. We need one. And we know that when we, you know, divide people into kind of a category, it's really so that we can work together better. It's not to like segment them and to separate and isolate them according to their personality. And, you know, if you think about like even introvert, extrovert, you know, if you're an introvert, you like your extrovert friends. They're the ones who get you to go to the party or get you to meet your neighbors. And if you're a thinker and you're going to read everything and think about everything, don't you appreciate a doer, someone who actually execute the plans and is a go-getter? And so I think we know that when we're talking about, you know, coming up with the differences of people according to a personality profile. So why, when it comes to politics, do we like isolate everyone into 2 sides, 2 parties? We create these 2 platforms and we force people to pick a side, decide where they're going to stand. It's like we take this list of all of our biggest issues and most complex problems, and then we just ask these real quick questions like, what side do you want to be on? You want to be on this or this? Like, do you believe in climate change? Okay, you're a D. Oh no, you use fossil fuel? You're an R. Gay rights? You're a D. Traditional marriage? You're an R. Pro-choice? D. Pro-life? R. Immigrants? You like immigrants? You're D. Capitalism? R. Healthcare, D. Oh, unless you want to pick your own doctor, then you can be an R. Protesters, do you like them? You're D. Police, you're an R. But I think people have questions like, what? Like, if I'm an R, then that means I don't care about the environment or I don't like minorities? If I'm a D, that means like I don't believe in like business or the police? I just can't believe, with all the choices we have in America on everything, from cereal to religion, we have to pick from 2 when it comes to the biggest issues of our day. And then it's not enough to pick your side. You have to fight for it, okay? Like, and then maybe even hate the other side. Like it's your civic duty that you have to engage in the war of words too, and to defend your political party. Even like maybe things that you don't agree with. Just because it's in the platform and because you maybe like your biggest issues are on the one side, so you pick the side. I think that we've gotten to this place now that we're defending these parties as if the other party wins is the end of civilization. What? Aren't we all people? Aren't we all humans? I think we all care a lot more about a lot of things and would like to work together and really see some answers. But are we allowed to today? Are we allowed to do that? So this is a lot. Obviously, you can tell I've been thinking about it a lot this year. And of course, coming up to this presidential election, you know, I think it's on everybody's mind. So I am, you know, tired of just sticking to sides. And I don't like to do that in my job, you know. In our job at City Commission, you know, we are the ones who are allowed to be nonpartisan. I think it's brilliant. And when I'm in my job, I want to say, we're the thinkers. We're the listeners. We're the mediators. We're the peacemakers. We're the assemblies of wise ones, the leaders who engage in difficult conversations, the ones who ask the tough questions, not to be right, but to really solve the problems. This is what I'm looking for today. This is what I'm seeking out. When my children, when they're 6, they don't all get along. They don't all agree. When they're in an argument, I try to remind them. I'm like, listen, what's your end game here? What do you want most here, guys? You want to be right, or do you want to have a relationship? I have 5 boys and 1 daughter. So Amelia is like, Mom, I use that all the time with my friends. They just get all worked up and ultimately over nothing. And I say, okay, well, you can be right. Is that what you want, to be right and win the argument, or do you want relationship? Because if you want relationship, sometimes you have to let go of some of your rights. Sometimes you have to stop arguing and just say, who cares? Who cares who's right on this? Let's love each other and let's work together. So what's another thing that I do? I say, do you want to be right or do you want relationship? Big deal for me. Also, I love the Socratic Method. I'm actually watching a Hillsdale course on philosophy right now. I thought, you know what, I need to channel Plato and Socrates right now. And they'd sit all around and ask questions of each other instead of just like, instead of being Orwellian or 1984-ish to say, oh, we've got like the Department of Words, this is the only thing you can say, and you have to say it like this, and if you don't, that means you are a hater or you're a racist or a really bad person. What? No, ask questions that stimulate critical thinking. Where's that? Or where's curiosity? Where's the people who say something so smart it like disarms their opponent? Where's the logic anymore? How are we coming to the conclusions? I think sometimes it's just like somebody from your side said it, so you just believe it. You didn't check it out. You didn't see if it made any sense. Where's the wisdom in that? Even if the goal on, the news is to dismantle the view of the opposing view, and maybe they think it's a destructive idea and they don't want people to have it, so they want to damn it. I liked what the TED Talk said. I don't know if any of you took a chance to listen to that, but I think when you come in that strong, it causes the other side to just dig their heels in deeper and resist anything you have to say. Like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're yelling at me. I don't like your attitude. I'm not listening to anything you say. It's not helping. However, the woman, I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. I forget the TED Talk lady, but she said, she had gone on all these debates and she thought, if I just target the most opposite side, then I'll win. And no, it's by first finding common ground. That was the winning debate strategy, to find common ground. Well, who's doing that? We're shooting to kill. And then what happens is the other side has fight or flight. Like, I'm either going to fight you or I'm going to like run away from you and never talk to you again. So I think we need more time. Think we need safe spaces to explore ideas rather than being forced to choose a side. I don't even think we've heard all the facts most times before we're forced to decide. And what are facts anyway? I mean, we're fed so much information on the news. I cannot tell you how many scientific studies I've been sent in my email box. Like, you wouldn't dream how many scientific studies there are on efficacy of masks, or how they're creating bacteria in your mouth, creating more diseases, or how they affect people with COPD or asthma, or that they're wonderful and, widespread mask adoption is the panacea. I mean, there is so much information out there, so much fact slewing. Sometimes you just have to take in as much as you can and then do the best you can, with the information that you have. But I think that the worst thing that you can do is just hear one side and say, I like that side, that's my side, I'm gonna go with it. And I'm not saying necessarily that means like how you're gonna vote this November. I'm saying you women as leaders, as change agents, as solutions-oriented problem solvers, to find strategic ways forward in this quagmire that we find ourselves. Huge issues, y'all, with regard to our planet and climate and huge issues regarding diversity and inclusion and access, huge issues regarding healthcare and education. And they're not relegated to a D or an R platform. And there are lots of amazing things that could happen, you know, if we could come together, if the bridge builders would get involved and activated. So I think I'm pretty, let's see if I'm close to the end of my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything, all of this long diatribe. You know, I do say here, you know, that although my job is to find consensus, is sometimes I just want to lose. I'd rather lose 1-6 because I believe it. You know, I didn't win everyone over, but I believe it, and I want to have my name on that one vote. Or maybe I had a group of constituents come and they said, please go to bat for us, like they did on clay courts. You know, a lot of tennis players, they wanted clay courts. And so I, you know, went around with all the city staff and Parks and Rec, and I tried to find all the information and how clay courts are amazing and they're better on your knees and joints. And there's no money for clay courts, and I couldn't get 6 other votes, and I lost 6-1. But you know, maybe next year it'll be brought up again, or the year after that, or maybe one day all of our courts will be clay. And you know what? Clay courts is not whether or not people have the vital health care they need, or you know, some of the other things, you know, that are so important. But I'm saying, of course, sometimes you will just want to be right, not for yourself, but for the people you're representing. And you're an advocate, and you're going to stand up strong. And that's the goal. The goal is to advocate and to push the dial, and you know, and to keep your voice headed in that direction, to over time make a difference. But I think by and large, most of us on this call, most of us have come together here because we sit on boards and we sit on councils. And we are volunteers, and we have offices, and we have people that we convene with where we have to make decisions for the best of our company or our community or our city at large. And that's where I want to see us use the best possible bridge building strategies in conversation in ways that engage people, that make people curious, that make people think, that make people wonder, that make people brainstorm for best practices. And I think that you already probably do that. And I think that that's why you're here. But I don't want you to be bullied by this current environment. I don't want you to be deflated when you turn on the news or when you watch these upcoming debates, if you watch them. Maybe you just turn the TV off. Probably be better if I did, but I do watch them because my husband loves politics. So anyway, think about these last 2 things, and I know I'm supposed to give you 15 minutes to talk here at the end. You've hopefully written down a question. And the question is, you know, if your only power is persuasion, what are you going to do? How are you going to get your colleagues to agree with you? Think about that. Are you willing to just be right because you want to advocate, you think it's true, and you're going on a long-term move on this? Or do you think maybe building relationships first? Maybe if you softened how you talked about that thing you're really passionate about and built some relationship first, maybe that would be a better strategy. Let's see, anything else I wanted to think of you? Let's see. What, I mean, of course you could all probably comment on the Facebook tar and feathering, you know, but maybe not. Maybe we don't have time for that, and it's not very positive. I think Dale Carnegie said it, you know, wouldn't think that that was the best way to win friends and influence people is by, you know, getting behind your keyboard at night, maybe when you've had too much to drink, and just gone off about everything you think about everybody, and wake up in the morning and you've started a whole hailstorm, you know, on social media. It's probably not the best strategy. Oh, here's her name. I wrote it in my notes, Julia Darr. She is the one who did the debate training, and she really was great. I watched another one too that my daughter Amelia gave me that I could send y'all to. But the main thing is to find common ground, to be respectful, to listen to a variety of ideas and opinions. Don't just dismiss people because you disagree with them or because they have a different party affiliation. And now the floor is open. So you can, I think Catherine said you could just ask me anything. It could be about city government. You might have a pothole, you know, on your street. Or maybe it's something with regard to what we said, but the floor is open. Of course, I don't know how to am I supposed to go to the chat? Am I the facilitator of the questions, or is Greta gonna do that?
Right now, we don't have any questions in the chat, but I am checking it just in case.
Okay. You know, at commission meetings, we do this.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to raise their hand, we can unmute you. You don't have to use the chat box if you want to speak up.
Brittany? Unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Stephanie, my question, I loved the TED Talk, and I was really fascinated with the concept of intellectual humility and finding that as a strength and not a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious as to what your experience has been, particularly as it relates to politics and city commission. Do you think that that intellectual humility is valued? And if it's not, where do you find the courage to have that intellectual humility?
I'm so glad you asked this, Brittany. So in my philosophy online course, Socrates, you know, said that the wisest person is the one who is happy he's proven wrong. And, you know, when you think about that with regard to your question about intellectual humility, if you go into it thinking your goal is to be right, no, like right meaning your position that you've held is right, or that you're actually right because you know truth. And I think you have to go in to think, I want to be proven wrong if I'm really not right. I go into and I think that, I don't know if everyone does that. I would say that the thing that makes the commission special with regard to intellectual humility is, I don't have to go in as a D or an R. Nobody's made that mandate to me. I feel no obligation. I feel an obligation to citizens who voted for me, of course. I'm not going to always agree with every citizen who voted for me. I might, you know, but that intellectual humility means I think I know what I know. I have done my research. I've read my emails. I've looked at these, you know, all the science that everyone's, but I'm still going in willing to be proven wrong. I say this to my kids all the time, prove me wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. You know, tell me your side, give me your fact. And I think that is a huge starting point. I don't know I would be curious to the group how many people actually feel like people in leadership have the intellectual humility, or if they're just coming in knowing for sure they're right and they're pushing. Now I also, we have a marketing company, okay? So we focus group and collab and ideate and brainstorm. Like creative genius is like our total, we believe in it, you know? So I never have approached leadership at my business like, I'm right, everybody follow me because I'm the wise one. I have 6 kids. They've worn me so down and humiliated me so many times. And all those girl moms, because I've got 5 boys, they always know everything. And it's always my boys that are probably in the trouble category. So I always assume, okay, what's my child done? You know, how am I wrong? So I don't know if it's my life experience or, you know, those things with business and kids. But I really do, and I was happy to hear, you know, Socrates said it, and I was happy to hear Julia in the TED Talk say it. That I think intellectual humility is a huge key, and if we would grasp that, we'd be a lot better off.
Do we have any other questions from the panel, from the ladies? Nanette?
Stephanie, this is the first year or two that I have felt that I really couldn't share with my friends exactly my feelings they want to argue or they want to they've already made up a mind. Do you have suggestions on how we could use this intellectual humility, and we're with someone and I don't know, now I just feel shut down on some of the things that I really feel would help them for us to talk and talk it through.
So back to my philosophy class. Oh, I'm so glad I'm watching that. It's really been helpful in this talk today. So Socratic Method. So Nanette, there is a form of conversation that we have come to that is just commenting. It's what we do on social media. We make a comment. We tell a comment. This is what I believe. This is our comment. But I think asking questions. So if they come in strong with what they believe and they're asking you a question, why don't you answer it with a question? Well, I mean, do you think that's absolutely right all the time? Do you think that there could be any movement or change on that? And so it kind of takes people aback because people are so used to putting their boxing gloves on. Even if they're not boxing with real humans in a conversation, they're being confronted with words like arrows at them from the Facebook. It's a comment. It's an arrow. On the news, it's an arrow. You should believe this, or it's a target, or it's targeted to someone who you agree with. So you're like, so that means that's what they're saying about me. And so that's kind of the place where we're living. I think if you just kind of softened it with a question, just kind of, I think that's really, I'd be curious to see if other people think that too. But, obviously Socrates, was pretty smart. And he thought that was the mean to meaningful engagement was through questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Danielle.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Commissioner Madden, for joining us today. We definitely appreciate it. Definitely good information that you shared with us. I was just wondering about something local. We know that today is National Voters Registration Day, and we at United Way of Central Florida are sharing on our platforms for people to vote, and we're doing all that we can as a community. But I was just wondering if there was any other insight that you had to share with us as community advocates of how we can get others excited about voting this year. We know whether they're standing in lines or whether they're doing a mail-in ballot, where we need to make sure their signatures match up. What else can we do to help our community get out to vote?
So we've been really working on how to get people to fill out the census. That's been a big deal for us. And, you think people are getting more engaged and they're going to more live events and working, from an office, more. So it's kind of getting a little bit more back to normal. So I don't think we're like in the place where we were like a month ago where people would have been afraid to go to the polls, But I've heard, what's disheartening to me is I've heard people who aren't happy with either choice, or they're just, because it's been so vitriolic and we've so name called the other side, like they don't really want to be associated or affiliated with either side. Like they think like there's no champion, like this person's gonna save the day and they're so amazing and everyone loves them and I wish I could be like them. I feel like, and so a lot of folks are just sort of cynical and depressed, and to your point, I hope that they will go. One of the things that frustrated me is, so we have Commissioner Franklin, and so you have to resign to run in Florida. So he resigned his position, which expires at the end of this year. And yet, we have some rules with the supervisor of election that you can't put a local thing on the presidential elections. Then you have to we have to appoint someone for an interim, and then we have to pay a lot of money to have another race in the fall, in the spring. And I think, gosh, I think having a lot of people on that ballot actually encourages more people to want to get there, because maybe if they don't like this race, it's a little troublesome or not their favorite candidate, they might like this person, this race. I mean, there is state and local and federal, all of these things that we need to vote upon. Usually there's some kind of an amendment, things like that we could talk about. But I think, you know, I would look to you, Danielle, to, you know, look at you're bright, young, smart, you know, creative in this position at United Way and say, what do young people want to hear? I feel like there's older people who are just set in their ways and they are standing on their platform and they're going to go with their R or the D and they just vote because they are patriotic and that's what they do. But I think the question you asked, a good one actually for your peers, for the younger generation. Do you feel like they are disillusioned and cynical? Do you feel like they'll be at the polls and they're excited about voting?
I think Lou had a question.
Well, I was going back, I really wanted to, my question was, how do you get past this intellectual humility? I mean, when you're talking to someone that doesn't agree with you, they don't want to hear what you have to say if they've got a strong opinion. So I have, you know, a group of friends that are very strong in what they believe, and they may not believe exactly like I do, but it's very difficult to talk to them because they do not want to hear the other side.
Yeah.
Regardless of the topic, and it's several topics that are right on the forefront today. Everything from race to politics to religion, you know, it's hard to get past that sometimes, and to know what to say. Back to what Nanette was talking about.
So, and so I'll add on to, since my answer for Nanette was more about asking question and kind of engaging more in a Socratic dialogue, I would say, Lou, to you, that if you start to, I feel like you're saying to a group of friends, you know, maybe your bridge club or someone that you meet with that on a continuous basis, you don't have one chance, you know, if I don't say what I believe today, you know, it's the only time they're going to know what I believe. Right. If you started to say to that group of friends, you know what, I went to this United Way luncheon and, you know, we're just talking about, you know, how we've kind of lost civility and meaningful dialogue. Like, would y'all be willing to not talk about things with a presidential election looming, you know, standing up for your party or your belief? What if we just said, you know what, you know, maybe you're R and you think that fracking has saved the world and given us energy independence and you love fossil fuel. Maybe you think that getting off coal is the first good step because then, you know, then it's less CO2. And let's get solar in there to replace the coal because maybe we could all agree the coal's kind of outdated and that with gas prices, we could move to gas first and then get to solar. Like, you know, I'm using one topic that can be very, instead of then the friends who are like, no, we have to go to all solar, like right away, all renewable, the CO2 is killing the planet. We have to give it just a deadline. You're like, well, okay, I mean, I like the idea of solar, but it's limited. You know, it's really cloudy and it's raining. You know, it's intermittent. So right now, our gas is powering in between when the solar is not working, or maybe Elon Musk will create some super batteries. I mean, we're not there yet. They're about to 6 to 8 hours. So, you know, we get batteries better. Maybe we could invest, maybe we could collaborate with partners on battery storage. That would cause the solar to not be so intermittent. And then we could do more solar and that could get us not only off the coal, but then inch us off the gas. Like, I'm giving you an example. Like, that conversation rarely happens. Now, I'm starting to see it happen on the utility committee. Why? Because I'm actually asking questions. I'm like, okay, so I know you think that solar's a no-go, and it's a one-trick pony in Florida because that's our only renewable source. We can't have wind, we can't have nuclear, we can't have hydro yet unless they come up with a discovery. So then we just say, so we can't have it. So we're just going to keep. And I said, well, what if we get a certain political party that says we have to by a certain date? What are we going to do? Because we're investing in assets that are 30 years. So I think we should talk about this. I think that we need to have discussions. Where is technology? What's missing? You know, where can we come together? What's the common ground? How can we make strides now? I think we all are common ground. Maybe we disagree on the planet and how dire it is. Maybe we disagree on if we want to, cancel fracking or keep fracking. Maybe, but what do we agree that we need power. We agree it has to be semi-affordable, you know, so all our residents can have electricity because it's pretty much like clean water, like it's essential. What can we agree? We have a little solar now. We can agree that gas is less CO2 than coal. That's better. What can we, and I think that even in your friends, if you said, I want us to be bridge builders, I don't want us to give into all this nastiness. Can we just not, we're friends. Why do we have to fight each other and argue? Couldn't we like see where we agree? Don't you think that we'd probably have more answers on healthcare and on race and on the energy if we actually kind of met in the middle on some things? And I don't mean you have to change your mind. You can vote however you want to vote. You can still have your, but can't we start as friends to maybe dream and brainstorm about some things that would be better? I mean, like, think about abortion. It is so emotional. It's such an emotional issue. And with RBG, leaving the Supreme Court, people, I'm sure, are just going to fight and put their feet in the sand, put their feet solidly in the sand over that and say, no, I'm pro-choice or I'm pro-life. Okay, well, let's start on the common ground. When do we think that, maybe we'll disagree on when life starts, but maybe when do we think it's the most egregious? Do we think, let's start at, partial birth abortion. What do we think about that? Like, do you agree with it? Do you not agree with that? Like, could we maybe have, what do you think? Like, how can we start to find instead of finding the most egregious thing that just makes our heart hurt because we're so against it, what if is there anything we could find that we could agree on? Like, and I'm trying to kind of talk it out in some hot topics so you could kind of see, like, do you think that you could be that bridge to your bridge? I don't even know if you play bridge, but, or to your church group or to your, I know that when we serve on boards and councils, usually the topics are germane to that which we're discussing with regard to that organization. But among our friends, could we start there and just say, come on, guys, what if we change the way we talk to each other? What if it starts with us, that we could be more like a little Socratic circle of dialogue and ask some questions and, dream about a better future with, some strategic steps forward. I don't know. What do y'all think? I mean, do you think it's impossible?
Well, it's kind of like things have to start at home sometimes. And during the pandemic, my household has had lots of discussions about the topics that are going on that are at the forefront right now. And I've learned a lot about myself in having those conversations. Like, I mean, to be honest, I grew up in Mississippi in the 50s and 60s when the race relations were so different then. And I realized that a lot of my thinkings and even some of the language I use in life is things I've had to think about. I've had to think, that's really not appropriate anymore. And it's nothing that you might even catch if you were having a conversation with me. But I just think we've got to start at home and learn how, or within our own little small comfortable groups maybe, and learn how to have these kind of conversations that you're talking about.
Well, and I will say, I know we're getting close to the end of the time, but what you just demonstrated to us, Lou, was beautiful because you shared your own personal experience. And I think I could probably, everyone else could nod to say, that was disarming. I don't care how you feel about the conversation, but if you approach your friends how you just approached us, sharing your personal experience versus asking a question, do you believe in Black Lives Matter? Well, I mean, what does that exactly mean? Like, I mean, yes, I think Black Lives Matter. I mean, it puts you so like, what am I saying yes to, or what am I saying no to? But when you sat there and you just gave us a personal experience, that was beautiful. That tapped into our best selves. It taps into our compassion, our humanity.
So I think this is great, and I wish we had more time because, we've all obviously seen this country go through political instability in the past several months. And on top of that, dealing with a pandemic, dealing with so much. And, and I feel like, what are some solutions that could be implemented at a local level? And I think, Lou, I think everyone, is facing the same, probably had the same question, and some people are, I think you mentioned it earlier, Steph, I think respect is one of the most root problems of what's going on today. The disrespect that goes on, that people can't respect others' opinions. And I think some people come on so strong. I personally cannot look at Facebook that much anymore, or I have to snooze people because I just care not to see that anymore. It's almost become toxic, honestly. And so, I wish there was a platform locally or a group of bridge builders. So how could we implement some solutions locally? Because then you have to start locally and then go beyond that. And we're at a time now where no one wants to talk to each other. There's this white elephant. And like you said, some people are not even educated about these platforms. Some people don't know what Black Lives Matter or what exactly we're facing, or thinking that this is because of that. And there's a lack of education as well, I think. And hopefully one day people can learn to respect each other's opinion, or just have a meaningful conversation without the second sentence start a fight between people. I hate to see that people might have lost friends in the past several months because of what's going on, unfortunately. And so that's why I choose personally not to look at some of the things that are going on, just because I don't want to lose friends, or see the disrespect. And it's just become very unfortunate because we are dealing with so much on top of what's going on already. So I think this is a great start, honestly, as we think about solutions to implement locally. And hopefully we can continue this conversation. We had a couple new faces on the Lunch and Learn. And, I think, Catherine, we might have to talk to Stephanie and bring her back and continuing this conversation, because I think we could go on. And I know some of our own committee members couldn't make it today. But Stephanie, we appreciate everything you do and your positivity and what you do in this community. And we can't thank you enough for being here today.
It was such a pleasure. Y'all are so nice. This is a nicer forum than my normal job, but I love my job, but I'm just saying, y'all, this is the friendlies. It's fun to be with the friendlies.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And we hope that you all have a great afternoon, and it's back to work for some of us, and keep building bridges, ladies. It's what we do, and this is what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.